Gary Vaynerchuk is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and one of the most sought after public speakers alive today, and a 4 times New York Times best-selling author. He went from being born in the Soviet Union, living in a studio apartment with 8 other family members, to building a net worth of $160 million. Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 for my top 10, top 10, 9 This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by being surrounded by the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Gary Vaynerchuk, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Lean into optimism.
There's only offense and defense. There's only the force and the dark side, right? And I think that right now a lot of people are choosing to be driven by fear and negativity without realizing it. And so if you're listening right now, my biggest thing is start leaning into a little bit more of optimism and positivity. I think where it overcorrects is when it goes into delusion, and that's when you start creating entitlement. And that is the tightrope that I've been talking about, thinking about, watching. And I create entitlement a lot of times because I like positivity. And it took me a little while, maybe 20 or 30 years, 20 years of operating and managing and parenting and being like, okay, I can see this, but I'm a product of not having entitlement.
Rule number 2, audit your circle.
You talk a lot about, delayed gratification, and there's time, and everyone has a lot of time, and people are wanting things right now. What do you think, even with that mentality, I know that you would love to get results, bigger results all the time with what you're doing. If you sell 100,000 books,
right,
you would like to sell 200,000 books right now. And
that's exactly right.
Right? What?
Micro, macro.
Yes, exactly.
That's it.
But what do you think you're going to need to do to step into getting faster results in the micro and the macro? What would take you to the next level quicker?
I think what takes everybody to the next level is cutting out dumb shit. Like if you really look at anything, it's always cutting. That's why Jack Welch had such a great career. He was so right in when it was a revolutionary thought of cut your bottom 10% of your staff each year. But it's right. I mean, no question, whether in your training, in your business, in your friendships, do you understand that if every person who's listening right now started to weed off the friend that is bringing the least value, and I mean they're a bad influence, they're bad mojo. They're bad. And bad. I mean, they're just negative. They're a negative person, so they're dragging you down. They're selfish. They have bad habits, like a drug addiction or something. And you don't want to leave them. I want to make sure people right. When they hear me say this, oh, you get rid of your friend. No, just if you audit your circle of who you spend time with, if you just spent less time with something that is broken, and you added one person that was incredibly valuable, your life would be a lot better. That's just real.
Rule number 3, become kinder.
What is the impact that you want to have on the world?
So I would say this is my current POV, because I think it's actually important that I have a different answer for this at 50 and 60, because you're going to adjust to the reality. I'll give you a good example. If something terrible happens in my life and it's disease-based, or it's because some kid was texting while he was driving and hit my dad, those will become things that I want to leave a legacy about, because that's just how we act as humans, right? They become your truths. But no question, this will never go away. I want to do the following. I'm fascinated by the same thing that attracts so many of millions of people to people that are selling bullshit. Those same people are attracted to me. And what I want to do is suffocate out all those other people and become the alpha of that entire world of people that are hoping and are desperate to look at me. And what I want to do is inspire 2 14-year-old girls in Kansas City right now to build $1 billion company on having a bunch of employees hugging each other in the halls. I think that Steve Jobs came along, became an icon, but The sad part of that narrative was he did not treat his employees well. He became an icon, and the narrative became he got the most out of people by being a jerk, and that became romanticized. And a lot of people in Silicon Valley today run companies where they're mean because they think that's the right thing to do because they put Steve Jobs on a pedestal. I want my pedestal moment. I want to become that big, and what I want to come from that is that kids that aren't even born today think that they can build a $5 billion company and be a great guy or a great gal. I want to build the biggest building in town ever by just building the biggest building in town, while I think most people try to tear down everybody else's building. So I think positivity and good is practical advice to building an empire, and I want to be the poster child of the person that built the biggest, baddest empire and did it by being a good dude along the way. And not everybody's gonna be happy about everything I did, but if it's 97% of people talking good behind your back, that's a real legacy. And I wanna do it in a pop culture way. I'm gonna do it anyway. People have done that before. Just so you know, there's plenty of people, Warren Buffett's a really good dude. Like there's plenty of people that have done that. There's a difference. I wanna do it and I wanna be a rock star, right? Like, and that's where you influence people. Like, you know, like I wanna do it, but I also wanna be the most popular. And so then that person's like, oh, I wanna be him, so I guess I'll be nice. Like I wanna literally take people who have DNA that's kind of nice and make them more nice because they think that's how I became big. So I basically wanna trick the business world into becoming kinder.
Rule number 4, give without expectations.
When you started trying to care towards me, as your career evolved over the last 9 years, the first 4 times that you cared, I thought this is the setup for the other thing.
The ask or something, right?
Because that's what we as humans think. That is the environment we live in. I'm sure that's what people feel about me. The fact that you, look, I think here's the thing. Actually, let me say this about you as well. This is a good topic. I want to pay forward at all costs. I want to give, right? Jab, 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 right hook.
Right.
Like if I had it my way, that book would have been called jab, 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 right hook. I think the thing that you have, that I have, and this is our kinship and no question speaks to our success, is we're very willing to give.
Yeah.
We're not scared to ask for something in return, but we are not crippled. We don't overreact to somebody coming through, and we're not crippled when they don't.
Right.
I'll give you a great example for everybody listening. When School of Greatness came out, you emailed, you reached out, I was able to buy a bunch of books, we did all the right things. When Mask came out, this feels like what, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
I remember this clearly because I kept like getting scared that I was f***ing up because you reached out, you're like, this is coming, but I had some shit going on, just like business stuff.
You were really busy too and everything,
but I was just really like between personal life and business, and I just remember like, because I remember this, because I was like, oh shit, I gotta, like, it wasn't like notes, I'm like, oh, I gotta reach out to him, and then I like hit you up and I was like, dude, where are you? Like, you're like, dude, I was in New York 4 days ago. Like, but you know what's interesting to me? Because that's how I play. Like sometimes people will come through, sometimes they don't. Right. Giving with expectation is a devastatingly bad idea that 99% of people do.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, self-love, and motivation, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
We are strong as shit. We're really strong. We're just being sold that we're not, because there's a lot of money. Saturn was not going to impact my life, and I didn't care about it. Pause this video right now and ask yourself, am I doing my shit because of me? Then you're good, whether you're winning or losing. Or am I doing it because somebody else is telling me it's the right way? Or I'm subconsciously pandering to please somebody or something because I need the short-term stability. Figure that the f*** out.
Rule number 5, be straight and narrow.
Tell us the story about pulling flowers and reselling them.
Yes, this is who I am. This is my DNA. The first business I ever had in my life, I would go around the neighborhood, I would pull people's flowers out of their yards, I'd ring their doorbell and sell it back to them.
Dude, that's not,
It's not super
listen, super ethical.
This is why my dad has such a big impact on my life. When I turned 14 and got in my dad's business, the first thing he taught me was that. And it saved my ass. Word is bond. Word is bond, word is bond, and that's it. And it saved me because when you have this much level of charisma.
But what's that got to do with pulling the flowers?
I'll explain.
Okay.
It basically elevated into ethics. You know, like it's even the spiel that I've been. Look. I'm not confused that some of the things I'm spewing here are not exactly aligned with you or everybody else. It's what feels right to me, just like you do what feels right to you. We all say what we say, and so. But what my dad did for me, when you have as much salesmanship and charisma and story capabilities as I do, this is just the truth. You can manipulate. I can make anything happen. I can fundamentally make almost any human do anything. I'm being dead serious.
Make me do something right now.
I'll make you do something without you knowing, and then I'll tell you the story of how it happened.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, good. So
wow, man, am I gonna like this?
You're gonna love it.
Okay.
And so what's interesting about that is that's dangerous. That's
Well,
Hitler. That's a cult.
If the intent's bad.
Correct. And I don't have bad intent, so I was gonna be okay. What my dad did was speed up what I would have learned by becoming a wiser man. And so at a younger age, I became more straight and narrow and less full of shit. And that helped me so much.
Right, you grew up.
Rule number 6, change your mindset.
If I didn't think of it as motivational and I thought of it as strategy, because mindset's strategy, right? Like being insecure is a mindset. It was put into you for a million different reasons. Figuring out how to get out of that hole by who you surround with, how you think, what you do. Insecurity is the biggest poison in our lives. Like insecurity scares the out of me. Lack of self-esteem is why people do everything bad. Buy dumb shit to make themselves feel better. Do dumb shit, like take dumb shit and put it into their body. It's all insecurity. I used to remember in high school, back to dating now, it made me, I'm gonna tie these stories together. I remember when I realized, oh, my friends drink alcohol to get courage. But they don't even that drunk, they just use it as an excuse to do shit that they wanted to do anyway. It's just all insecurity, man.
Rule number 7, have no regrets.
As far as failing, it's interesting. I don't have like a fantastic, obvious failure, and that's actually a weakness because it's very grounded in my deep, deep, deep immigrant roots. I've never done anything that has so overextended myself that if it didn't work, that I would really fail. Where I've really failed is on the things that I haven't done. I've fantastically passed on Uber twice in the angel round, and that $25,000 check would have made me $500 million. I fantastically didn't even reply to Air Bed and Breakfast's email to have, which is what B&B stands for, to invest in their company. I've passed on a lot of opportunities that have become fantastic. They're the most obvious. And then the really biggest mistakes I've made is when I didn't come to a conference like Brilliant Minds over the last 5 or 6 years, and that would have been the conference when I met someone and she and I would have done something. So it's much more, when you're crippled by opportunity, it's the hidden things that you've passed on that are the great mistakes of your career. Especially when you're like me, who's not ever playing a financial arbitrage machine game where you're trying to slide one past the goalie and hope your timing's right. I'm a marathon runner in a sprinter's costume. And so I don't put myself in a position to be that vulnerable. The other thing is from 18 to 29, I worked every single day. All of them. And so I definitely think like one vacation a year for a week with my friends from high school or college would have been a good idea. So I was just so passionate. I so wanted to pay my parents back for being the greatest parents and bringing me to America that I was obsessed with building that family business. And I probably could have had a little bit more leisure in my 20s, which I regret. Not really, but yes. You know what I mean? Not really, not because I became successful, honestly, because I just loved it. Like I go garage sailing on the weekends, literally go to people's yards and try to buy things for $1 that they're selling that was in their basement and then repost it on eBay for $8. And in that $7 ROI, get more excited than landing an $8 million client. So for me, business is my hobby. And so that's why I say not really, because I just loved it. I loved, working the register on a Saturday when I was 25 years old because I love it.
Rule number 8, find more optimistic friends.
I believe one of the great ways to mix things up is what you listen to and who you surround yourself with. I'm unbelievably passionate about people finding more optimistic, practical friends. And I think optimism can slide into delusion, which is why I say optimistical, practical. You know, it's funny, as you were talking about minimalism, like it's so interesting that you're the first person to ever say it to me that I can recall, and it feels very real to me. Like, I don't have outside things kind of driving me, and that's what leads me to a lot of happiness. And so I would say auditing your circle. Like, if somebody wants a meaningful life, live a meaningful life, just get happier. I think the people that you spend your time with is a big one. The amount of people listening right now who've got a mother who's super pessimistic and cynical, but they love their mother, and they don't realize that cutting down their time from 7 hours a week of engagement with their mother to 2, and adding, like, going out of their way to seeing the person that's always smiling in the office and trying to spark up a friendship and become friends with that person, and cutting up that 7 hours a week from mom to 2 to mom, maybe 30 minutes with that person, and maybe reallocating the other hours to themselves or other things, is a massive deal. It's a massive deal.
Rule number 9, focus on the end consumer.
A word that has been really running through my head quite a bit over the last couple of years is entitlement. Mainly because I have exploded on Instagram, and I get 10,000 direct messages a week from kids who are wealthy, affluent, being totally taken care of, and they hate their parents for creating entitlement, and they don't know how to get out of it. But they're making a lot of excuses. That's a different story. But what I realized is that same thing that a 19-year-old whose parents have paid for everything, and she or he is realizing, wait a minute, I'm a zoo animal and I don't know how to live in the wild. I believe there's a level of entitlement that is rampant amongst the Fortune 500 or biggest companies in the world, of thinking that they're entitled to the business. They make audacious and points of view on their competitive landscape. They say silly things like make razzes and jokes about emerging competitors who eventually become their biggest issues. And I've been thinking quite a bit about that. And I think it all leads to actually a very interesting place, which is ultimately both high net worth parents and executives of very big companies, unfortunately, are not consumer centric. Unfortunately, play within their B2B confines, score on different metrics than the actual end user that they're supposed to be deploying for. And so my luck, and that's what I'll call it, of DNA of only ever being consumer centric has led to the honor of sitting here and talking to you and having people pay attention and all the nice things that have happened to me. And it's fun because there's nothing more entrepreneurial or rogue or disruptive than actually caring about nothing in the middle but the end consumer, pandering to nothing. Not awards, not the press, not the media, not the B2B environments, not the conferences, not the people that are fancy, just the end consumer, and building leverage there, which ultimately gives you leverage with all the things that I just mentioned that are in the middle.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is make your own recipe.
Everybody has an at-bat. The difference...
A what?
An at-bat.
Yeah.
The difference between LeBron and Beyonce in the story I said in the first segment is there are gatekeepers that decide if you could become LeBron and Beyonce. You have to go in AAU basketball. You have to go to college. The NBA scouts have to know who you are. You are not some random dude in Iowa who's just great at basketball and then you can go to the NBA. Entrepreneurship is somebody watching right now who's never made the leap, who has the talent. They don't need Harvard Business School. They don't need you and I. They need nothing.
That's right.
If you're good enough, the market will accept you. And that fact that we can all have an at-bat to do that is special. And you don't have that. And that's why American Idol worked. People got at-bats. It wasn't Clive Davis. And that's what entrepreneurship in America is.
There's fewer filters than the entrepreneurial
And whether they go by the motivation of you saying,
you
you've got to do it this way, or if I'm saying it, you got to do it that way, or Cuban says it's that way, or Ferris says it's that way, whatever it is, as long as they keep hearing a lot of different things and make their own recipe, that's what I'm hoping to do.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Gary on how to be aggressive with your convictions that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what is the mindset change that you need to make? Let me know, put it down in the comments below. And if you're still here watching, you made it this far in the video, Believe Nation, you're gonna commit, you promise to take action. We don't just watch videos, we do something. Give me a hashtag Believe in the comments as well, because I wanna celebrate you.
If the people that are actual practitioners of any craft are not willing to be aggressive with their convictions to communicate to CFOs, nothing will ever happen. There's only two ways I've ever seen big companies do the right thing. One, a cheerleader who mounted enough political clout to actually get something done. Or two, massive pain at the macro level that has required them to take a deep look at themselves and change their behavior. That's it. Evan, thank you so much for having a couple seconds and being able to tell the Believe Nation a little bit about Empathy Wines. It means a lot to me that you would take this valuable real estate and time on your channel to give me some love. It means a lot. It's just good karma points, and so you're awesome. Thank you. Believe Nation, if you're into wine at all, go to empathywines.com. My whole career's work was poured into producing a wine that rivaled $40 to $60 wine for 20 bucks a bottle. I'm just super excited about this subscription-based wine business. You can order 3, 6, or 12 bottles in subscription form, rosé, white, red. If you search on Instagram or Twitter, you will be blown away. People are literally like, I don't even like Gary Vee, but the wine's good. Super proud of the effort. Thanks, Evan, for the time. Wishing you guys all happy and healthy.
If you want 50 more rules from Gary Vee, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Who wouldn't want that? And I think that is one of the great things about entrepreneurs. The cost of that is you're always 1 second away from dying.